Hello, I'm Don Moores, and welcome to Montgomery Week in Review. The issue of statues of Confederate soldiers that can be found throughout the country and here in Montgomery County is in the news. Fred Evans, who comments on a regular basis for this program, is here to talk about this important issue. The Rotary Club of North Bethesda has initiated a program in the county called The Road to Independence, a joint venture between Rotary, Barwood Cabs, and Cornerstone Montgomery. Dr. Bruce Fowler, who initiated this program, is here to explain. Madison Fields, I want to say Madison Fields forever, a farm now owned by the Madison House Autism Foundation, will be a part of the upcoming Montgomery County Farm Tours being held this weekend. JaLynn, the founder of the foundation, will tell us all about this exciting new venture for the foundation. There are new Montgomery County public school rules for those people who work with children and youth, even those individuals who work with other volunteers. Jane Winter, who reports on education issues for us, is here to tell us what these requirements are. Fred, welcome back.
Thank you.
Confederates, Charleston, statues, flags. This is a huge issue, and it's here in Montgomery County too. Set the stage for us.
A tremendous issue, and just as a preface, I was a history teacher, and I've always enjoyed teaching history. And it is, for me, it's very sad that we have to discuss issues of Confederate flags and Confederate soldiers. As a result, it seems that we have to have a tragedy before we discuss what we do as a community or as a society.
Sure.
And right now, the issue specifically in Montgomery County is that there has been a statue of a Confederate soldier in the courtyard in Rockville, well,
in front of the courthouse.
In front of the courthouse for
Right.
as long as I've lived here, and I've been here since 1970.
Right.
And it has been raised as an issue. Is it something that we really should remove in Montgomery County because it's offensive to a wide variety of people?
Well, it's I mean, on so many fronts, isn't it? I mean, you've certainly the offensiveness and slavery, and for African Americans in a front. What about the historical part in that Montgomery County, Maryland, was very much a split state in terms of South and North? Is this, you know, this honoring of a Confederate soldier in Rockville, does that reflect where Montgomery County was during the Civil War?
Well, it may, but I think the question is, do we need that symbol? And we have to, I think, we have to focus on the fact that slavery was the major issue of that war, and then how we handled the elimination of slavery, and then I don't have to give a history lesson here,
Right.
but all the tragedy that's occurred since that time, from the Brown decision and all of those other things, and that symbol becomes not just to African Americans, but to Americans.
This is not 1865, 1870,
Right.
1890 no
Right.
longer.
Is there an appropriate place for symbols of this nature? Because I know they were taking down the flag and they were putting it in a museum. Are there places where we need to have visual reminders of a type so we don't forget things?
I think we do need to have reminders from a historical perspective, and for me, I don't have the exact answer to that, but for me, a museum would be appropriate in context.
The grounds of the Historical Society
the
or
grounds
something?
of historical.
Well,
I
and there's
don't have a specific
Right.
location for this
Sure.
specific answer, but
Yeah.
it is something that we need to discuss, and a lot of our history, we need to have a fuller history, a more complete history when we discuss periods. Like it's just like someone said to me the other day, the North is as divided racially in a lot of ways as the South. So
Many places more.
yeah, and when we just in my lifetime, when you saw what happened in Boston, not to pick on Boston, but for the desegregation, and in Montgomery County, we had controversy since I've been here over.
Well, and I'm
those
from
issues.
Massachusetts, and came down to this area. Actually moved here to D.C. Right after college, and it was a very different kind. I mean, to me, it wasn't that there was more, overt things or more racism, but it was just out in the open more than it is up north. But it's still very much present there, and so it's expressed in different ways in different parts of the country.
Things like redlining and,
Sure.
Right.
well, de facto as opposed to de jure segregation. Yeah.
And how do we tell a history and still remain very honest? You're a historian. And how do we put history out there and not whitewash it from one point of view or another?
I think that's the ultimate question. And I don't have an easy answer for it right now, but it has to be complete and it has to be looked at from a variety of different perspectives. Just one quick example, the way we look at immigration. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses. And what really happened to individuals who immigrated to this country was sad, and not just sad, was tragic in many, many kinds of cases, the way that new immigrants were treated when they came to the United
Still
States.
today?
But yeah,
Sure.
look what's happening with the current presidential election.
Well, let me do this. As you're very much of a community leader.
Thank you.
A thoughtful person, former principal, educator, historian, everything else. It seems to me, just as we're talking, in front of the courthouse, instead of the Confederate soldier, and an appropriate place for the Confederate soldier museum, as you pointed out, or mentioned the historical site, shouldn't we look at something that's dealing with justice?
Exactly.
And or dealing within this mosaic within here. We've got 45 seconds, unfortunately.
And dealing with the diverse community that
Right.
we live in.
The
to
mosaic that
celebrate-
we're here.
To celebrate that diversity. And once again, I don't mean, we've been happy all
Right.
these years. But to really look at how we got to the point where we are today and then where we need to
Montgomery
go.
County story.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes do we put some symbols out as aspirational or historical, where we want to go or where we've been, and how do we put those
How
side
we
by
put
side?
those together. Excellent.
But in thought about Montgomery County, do we want to look at we've been as Confederates, and is that aspirational to be Confederate soldiers?
No, but do we put something out there with a different
Right.
diversity as something to aspire to in conjunction with what the past is? And how do you have something that's aspirational and something that's
Fred, you're going to be asked to
historical?
come back and answer that question next time.
You got
We're
it.
done.
It's an ongoing, that's the key, it's an ongoing discussion.
And what's an ongoing discussion as well in this county, welcome, new to us, Bruce Fowler, is how Montgomery continues to ensure the inclusiveness of our disabled community. And you're doing some exciting things, aren't you?
Yes, we have a joint program between our Rotary Club of North Bethesda and Barwood Taxi and Cornerstone Montgomery to try to provide access, transportation access for persons with disabilities so they can get jobs, so they can get training.
How does it work?
Well, basically, persons are identified by Cornerstone Montgomery. Our club obtained a grant from the District 7620 is what it's called, of Rotary.
Okay.
And to support this. And Barwood has come in as a really active partner. They've just been wonderful. And the idea is that getting persons with disabilities to work has been a major barrier for
Sure.
them. And so some of these folks have physical disabilities, some have mental disabilities, some have both. And Barwood has a travel card program, a gift card is what they call it, which basically is cashless, that we pay for the card. It's
Okay.
managed by Cornerstone, and the person using it doesn't have to handle cash.
So now they're going to work.
Yes.
And able to get on with their lives and do those great things that people who go to work training and all that. How did you get involved?
I volunteered as a mock interviewer for Cornerstone to teach people who were going for their first job interview.
Okay, while you're talking about this, there's a phone number that people can reach out, can call. I believe it's coming up on the screen right now if they want to learn more.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so call that number.
Long and the short of it is, some of the life stories of the people that I interviewed were just enough to make you cry. And they were, being basically marginalized for no fault of their own, just by what happened to them. So, in talking with our colleagues at Cornerstone, we said, what can we do to help this?
Right.
And they said, well, the big barrier is transportation. And at this time, it happened that the grant opportunity for Rotary came up, and we said, I know how to do this. And we wrote a grant, and we were successful. And it's now helped about 40 people.
Fantastic.
Since October 1 of last year.
People may not understand. I mean, I know that if people might understand why certain people with physical disabilities, like in a wheelchair, need assisted transportation. But for other people, I mean, what are the impediments?
Well, there are all kinds of impediments. Some of these folks are blind.
Okay.
Visually impaired. Some have Down syndrome. Some have mobility issues, and as I said, some have a combination of things. But they all want to work.
Right.
And the issue then is, how do you get them to work? So that's what this Road to Independence project's about.
And several, or many individuals, I would imagine, have unusual shifts, and to use traditional transportation to get people someplace during the workday is very different than at night.
Yes, it turns out that we're blessed with good public transportation in Montgomery County. The problem is it doesn't operate all the time, and many of these folks have shifts that are between midnight and 5 a.m. And so they're walking to work in the dark at 3 a.m. and it's 20 degrees outside, and that's really not a good idea.
Lee Barnes is also, like Fred, a community leader
Yep.
here, and has done a number of things. Lee Barnes that heads up Barwood. What was Barwood looking? What's Lee Barnes looking for out of this? Is this something
He's been just wonderful. He and his staff have been just totally helpful and totally committed to this. And they're basically good citizens. And Lee has said, these people are vulnerable, and we can do something about this. So what Barwood has done is they've contributed in kind to the transportation, but in addition they've set up a VIP telephone line for our people that's just for them.
Oh, fantastic.
So they're not going through the general switchboard. So anyone, they can call that number, and they know what to do. So it's given them a leg up in terms of getting extra shifts and working their way out of poverty.
About 30 seconds left.
Yeah, this really makes some connections for me about making accommodations. As an educator, students had their IEP, individual education plan, and where appropriate, you made this is the same kind of thing. And
To spell success.
and about success, help. It's not because of their problem that we need to provide services so that they can get to where they need to be. It's fantastic.
Well, the other thing I'd say in closing is that the thing that means the most to me is the personal dignity that it gives to these folks. They have jobs, and that means a lot to them.
You're enabling success. I mean, to get to Fred, to get to your word, JaLynn, and thank you. And I'm hoping you'll be able to come back again in the future.
Sure, of
Let us know
course.
how things
Happy
are going.
to.
We'll be right back after these messages. And we're back. JaLynn Prince, welcome back.
Thank you.
Madison House, and we're talking about Madison Fields.
Yes, this is a new addition to Madison House Autism Foundation. We were gifted the equity of an incredible location here in Montgomery County, and this is kind of a soft introduction about it all. It's a
Whoa. You're introducing. You're making an announcement here on this show?
a soft introduction to
this
the
is
county.
exciting.
It
Breaking
really
news.
We love
is.
breaking news.
It is. Because we are now landowners. And we have a property in the Ag Reserve that is going to be dedicated to working with those 21 and over on the autism spectrum, some wounded warriors, and the general population, and bringing a lot of people together for an agricultural experience. We've got 400 acres.
Wow.
And
That's a lot of space.
it is, and we're making some exciting things happen, and we're on the farm tour.
What's there now?
What's there now? We have a therapeutic riding center that was part of the gift, and it has been functioning so we can do therapeutic riding, which is wonderful for
And
so
that
many
takes on one
individuals.
section of the 400, so that's a self-enclosed
One
sort of
section
of that
of
400 acres, right?
And then we also have some little animals for petting, and that aspect is growing. We are currently planting soybeans, and we have our rotation of things. We're going to be looking toward agricultural employment.
Right.
We're going to have sound business practices there that would be successful aspects in the Ag Reserve. That can employ the general population, wounded warriors, and those on the spectrum, but it's got to be sound business first.
Okay.
And We will have experiences there that families can come there, schools can come
It's
there.
exciting, JaLynn.
It is
It really
thrilling.
is.
And we're going to be having, it looks like some military dogs maybe participating and being transferred over to some of their new owners on our property.
You know, there's a lot happening. So, I mean, this is a farm, and these are all these agribusinesses going on. This is
Yes.
very complex. I mean, each
It
one
is.
of them is a center into itself. How are you going to be able to manage this?
Well, we have got an incredible farm manager and tremendous people on staff. It's a small staff right now. People are stepping forward. We had volunteers from the Marriott Corporation come in, 70 people helping us paint fences and prepare things for the spring.
Okay.
It's going to be an opportunity to serve and be served. And our population, I hope, will be able to take some perhaps dogs and some of our miniature horses into hospitals and nursing
Okay.
homes, that we can grow vegetables to take to soup
Well, we got
kitchens.
a phone number before we get to open up for
Okay.
questions. We got a phone number if people want to go ahead and make those reservations for those vegetables.
Yes, for
Or
the
those Shetland
farm
ponies.
tour.
Okay.
But,
What's
for
the phone
Shetland
number
ponies.
that people can?
It should be on our screen right
Okay.
now.
All right.
It should be popping up.
Right under. Okay, and we got a
And-
question here.
Yes,
Well, I was going to ask, where the Ag Reserve is a big place.
it is.
So
It's
where
near
is-
Dickerson. and
Okay.
It's about 7 minutes from Poolsville.
So the far north. So we're talking about the far northwestern corner of the county.
The far northwestern portion. And we have the farm tour this weekend on Saturday and Sunday, so people can come and see us. And this fall, we're going to have a corn maze, and it's going to
good.
be Mother Goose. And it's going to be open on weekends, Fridays, Friday evenings, Saturdays, and Sundays. Schools can also make some reservations for it. But it's going to be Mother Goose friendly and daytime things. And we just saw the first views of it, aerial views, and it's going to be charming and fun.
Okay.
But it's for the community.
Good. Good.
How many clients isn't the right word? How many persons will be able to be serviced through? What's the expectation?
On the autism spectrum to start
or
with.
whoever. the
Right
appropriate
now,
clients
we've
are.
got an active therapeutic writing session, so that can expand. We've got a lot of other things too. We have only been in possession of it, a portion of it for a year, another portion for only 6 months. So we're now working on putting programs together and
Gotcha.
making certain that we can serve people adequately. But we do have people coming there with various types of needs. We have general population coming up there, and people will be able to board their horses that are our neurotypicals. It's going to be a neurodiverse population with the agricultural component there, so we can all enjoy what makes our
We've only got
spirits
about
happy.
45 seconds left.
Hearing what you were describing about the corn maze and friendly and whatever reminded me of the special shows that like Adventure Theater and Imagination Stage are doing now for people who might have sensory issues or whatever.
Yes.
And that.
And it
you know,
will be for that population as well,
Right.
and we'll have special days and things, and then it's a more friendly environment, but it is for everybody
Everybody.
too. So we hope to take into consideration a lot of sensibilities, and I hope you'll come out. I think you'll find it fun.
What are you most excited about? Just about 3 seconds left.
I think the miniature animals and having them encounter people and vice versa. We've got little horses that are about this big, and when some of our individuals pet them, it's just magical
Great.
for both animal
That's
and
cool.
person.
New parents can't bring their toddlers as miniature people to no, I'm just kidding. JaLynn,
Actually,
thank
we
you.
had a 2-week-old
Well, I
there last week. Thank
look
you.
forward to hearing more about this and so many other great things that you're doing.
Thank you.
Dr. Jane DeWinter, it is always great to see you here.
Thank you.
With your doctorate as well. I want to make sure that when in economics and all of that, you're a pro. But you also are a pro as a leader in the educational field,
Yes.
and all the hard work you've done and this. And so we've got new rules as a result of bad behavior by people in the past. New rules that we're all going to have to follow if we want to do anything with the schools.
Yeah, I wouldn't have put it exactly that way as a result of bad behavior, but it
Well, no,
probably
I mean,
is. It really
global
is
bad behavior,
probably
yeah,
right.
yeah.
So the school system started working last fall on revising their policy on child abuse and neglect, and it's not a policy describing how you should go about doing those things, but it's really
Right.
a reaction to
promoting it,
them,
yeah.
et cetera.
Right.
And so some of it was in response to some of the incidents that have been publicized in the paper and in the community,
Right.
with finding out, different school employees had been
No, that-
doing inappropriate
And then when
things
Holton
for-
Arms gets in there as well, the private
Yeah.
schools, and not
Yeah.
just the public schools, it's
So
horrendous.
in any case, the policy and the ensuing regulations are going to be is pretty broad-based in terms of what it addresses, because it's changing or clarifying the reporting requirements. It is going to be beefing up training for employees on, what is the process for if you suspect something, how do you report it, and exactly the procedure to go through. It's also going to be clarified that contractors and a whole variety now of people, anybody from the outside who's coming in and could potentially be alone with any student or students.
We need to know the background.
Has to have a background check and fingerprinted.
Makes sense.
And that's going to include volunteers. And so right now they're also working on kind of a parent education plan for how to let the community know about this. And
Well, school system's a little bit behind. I know the Catholic school system has had this in place for years. And anybody who wants to volunteer in the classroom, anybody who wants to coach for a day or two,
they have programs.
they have all of that. So it's good to see the public schools are catching up.
Right, and there's some items, because we'll have to, there are PTAs especially, they have, so many volunteers who go in on a daily basis, and then there's other programs in the county, Oasis, that sends in volunteers to the schools. So I think part of it will be training school principals, like which volunteers specifically must have that background check.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the key to it, because there's no guarantee, but the most important guarantee is that the leader of the school, in my perspective, the leader of the school knows what the procedures are and makes sure he informs his staff whenever they have any suspicion, and that the kids know what who they can turn to when a friend of theirs or something happens to them. That's very, very critical.
Right, and another part of this policy is or implementation is that they are going to be adding some elements to the health curriculum to really reinforce with kids, the good touch, the bad touch, and what to do, and even with the high school kids is what's inappropriate, and
how early do you start with those things? I know parents have had some squeamish feelings about exposing children to different types of things too early on. So how do you do that, and when do you do that?
Well, I think that people start with kids that are quite young, because you don't have to be in any way talking about anything that's explicit, but just, if somebody is touching you and, it makes you feel uncomfortable.
Sure.
Or, somebody that you don't know comes and gives you a hug or something. That's the kind of thing. You can talk to somebody, who's 3 or 4 and tell them that, because kids do recognize when, somebody comes and makes them feel icky.
Right.
And you can just use that particular word.
Especially since abuse often begins at those ages, and if they're not aware, then it's you're already too late. What do you think is going to happen? Will we have enough trainings? For instance, I look at the volunteers. One of the keys I would think is that there'd be lots and lots of trainings, school-based, around, to make it easy for the volunteers to be able to come in. And unfortunately, we got such a short
since
time.
the policy was enacted June 30th, which is after school is out, so they're really putting together a communications plan and all of this. So I anticipate in the fall there might be some confusion just in terms of parents. There's also, even though in the county itself, there's lots of places to go to be fingerprinted. If you need to be fingerprinted for work, in the school system, there's only, I think, 4 places in the county that the school system was going to send people to. Then there's the question of
We got to contract that out.
volunteers, who's going to pay for it.
Sure. That's
right.
And so I anticipate that it's going to take a while before everybody is clear on
We've got
procedures.
about 15 seconds. What about that study that came out that socio-emotional training in schools is a much better indicator of future success than cramming stuff down people's throats?
Well, we always know. Nice people finish first, right?
And that's the final word.
Yeah.
Thanks all of you for joining me today. And thank all of you in the viewing audience for joining us for this week's edition of Montgomery Week in Review. I'm Don Moores, inviting you to join us next week at this very same time.